Hey, there is a vast difference between being tired and being weary. Tired is, well, you need rest. You need some downtime. I just got back from a vacation and the traveling just went all awry, and I was so tired when I finally got home. And I didn't even unpack. I rested. I laid down in my bed, probably slept for 10 hours, and I rested because I was tired. I was physically tired. Weary is a whole nother story. Weary is when your entire self is in a state of depletion. It's not just being tired. When you're weary, weariness is as much about your soul as your physical body. Your mental, physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual tanks are all completely depleted when we're weary. It's when we feel like, or when we have been, taking the whole world on our shoulders, when we've just poured out and there's nothing left in there. And we have to be really careful when we become weary. There is a quote, and I cannot find it. So if anyone knows this quote, please send it to me because it's driving me crazy. I'm just sure it's either Norman Vincent Peale or Zig Ziglar. And it says that whenever we have reached a mountaintop, whenever we have achieved a major life goal, victory, never to make any major decisions at that moment, not to make a knee-jerk decision, to take time. And why is that? After a major life victory, I'll tell you what, when I have messed up the most, the biggest mistakes have been when I have made a quick decision after major accomplishments or major goals have been conquered or accomplished, or they're over with. You've got to take time because we become weary in these moments, even though we have large Elijah in the Old Testament. After he had these great victories over the prophets of Baal in First Kings, I think that's the stories in First Kings. He had these great victories, and he became afraid and he ran away and he went into the wilderness and he cried out to God and asked God to just take my life. I can't, I shouldn't be here anymore. And this was after major victories. And why is that? Because it takes everything out of us and we're weary and the next thing hasn't been developed yet. And God came to him and God fed him. Well, God sent an angel to him and he fed him and gave him water and gave him rest before he went on to the next thing. So it's so important in those moments when we are weary or when you're in between things, Satan takes that opportunity to creep in and deceive us and distract us and get into our head. And he already knows our weaknesses and he plays on that because we are in this state of depletion. So what do we do when we are weary, when everything about our soul, our spirit, when everything is weary? First of all, I just want to say, I do these little things when somebody pops into my head or when I drive by our church, I just throw up, thoughts and prayers. And I know everybody, I don't know, there's some negative stigma with thoughts and prayers right now, but I'm telling you, thoughts and prayers, they work. Stand in it, stand on the power of God. And when I drive by the church, I throw out thoughts and prayers. I pray for our ministers and the youth ministers and the music ministers and the main minister and the people that are working with the children and anyone I can think of, and just for God to put that hedge of protection and make it a little extra hedgy, to put a ring of fire around each one of those people and around the entire unit and the entire building, and to reinforce all of the angels that are warring and guarding each one of those people, because it works and because they need it. Those are people, it's easy for me to say, those are people that become weary. I know that we can all become weary, but those are definitely people that can easily become weary. And boy, does Satan just creep in there, and whatever the weakness is, that's what Satan's going to come after. Okay, of course I didn't keep, I even have it right here and I didn't even go in order. So when we become weary, the first and most important thing is to be able to recognize it. And if you recognize it in somebody that you know, somebody that's a friend, then sit down and talk to them and let them know, hey, I think this is more than just being tired. I can see it, like, in your soul, in your spirit. I can just see that you're weary and your tanks are all empty. And so maybe you need to take some time with that. So once we recognize that we are weary, we need to be very intentional. Don't make any major decisions. Don't make any knee-jerk decisions at that moment. Take time to fill back up before you do any of that. What else did I? Don't make any major decisions. Find someone that you can confide in, someone that you can just kind of, Job, in the book of Job, his story, and boy, Job, you talk about somebody that was weary. It all happened. It all, like, boom. He was living the good life, and boom, boom, boom. He lost all his children. He became super sick. He lost all of his wealth. He lost everything. And he got to a point, he's like, you know what, Lord, I think this is chapter 10. I love the book of Job. In chapter 10, I think it's like the very first verse, and he says, look, I need to be able to I always think, like, I just need to be able to just say it out. I need to yell it out. I need to be able to sit here and scream it out. I would love to find this real quick, and I probably can't. Because, there it is. I am disgusted with my life. Let me complain freely. My bitter soul must complain. If you ever thought you couldn't just lay it out there, it's right there. We are allowed to lay it out there. So the first thing you've got to do, recognize that you're weary. Don't make any major decisions. Go ahead and complain to God. Find someone that you can confide in and talk with, and someone that will pray with you, that will help you to make a new plan, to make the next goal, to make the next plan, maybe to call you out a little bit. But, make sure it's someone safe to confide in, and take time to pray, to meditate, to read, and to reflect. Take time to stop, regroup, pray, meditate, reflect, refresh. Make a plan, accept help. Boy, isn't that a tough one for a lot of us. Even when we get to that point of weariness, when the world is caving in on us and our tanks are so empty, it's so hard for us to accept help. Accept it. Accept help. I put things in there I wasn't planning to, but the difference between being tired and being weary is vast. And I'm going to just say this one thing. This is in Psalm 119. I may only just do the one verse. I weep with sorrow. Lord, encourage me by your word. Keep me from lying to myself. I'm getting in my own head. Give me the privilege of knowing your instructions. So here I am, God. I'm empty. I'm empty. Fill me with your word. Where's that going to come from? That time and prayer and meditation and stopping to listen. So recognize if you're weary, if your tanks are empty. Lift each other up. Pray for people, especially people in places of authority that have the weight of the world on their shoulders. Sometimes, mothering, there were times when I was weary, and you have to take the time, and you have to get the rest, But there's so much more to it than that, isn't there? So, whether you're tired and you just need a good night's sleep, maybe to say no to a couple commitments that you said yes to that you really didn't need to say yes to, or are you weary? Are all of your tanks empty? Mentally, physically, relationally, spiritually, emotionally? Pay attention and then take the right steps in order to refresh and reset and regain the strength and the power and the energy that you need. Amen, sister.